Hey, it's Coach Justin from Ultimate Baseball Training, and in this video, we're gonna be going over some of the biggest in-game hitting mistakes that you might be making. Now, simply by becoming aware of these mistakes and avoiding them in the future, you're gonna set yourself up to be a much more consistent hitter instead of being streaky at the plate. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so the first mistake you might be making is this. Too much mechanical, not enough mental. You're thinking way too much about mechanics in a real game. Let me put it to you this way. I want you to imagine you're in the weight room right now and you're getting ready to try for a new PR on squat, right? You're trying to squat the most amount of weight you've ever squatted before. Now, in that moment, do you really think that you're thinking about, okay, let me allow my butt to come back over my heels and be sure that my knees don't get out over my toes? And are you really thinking about the finer details of your squat form? Or are you just trying to be as intense and as strong and as powerful as you can possibly be? My bet would be that one, right? My bet would be that you're thinking about being as strong and intense and as powerful as you can be, and you're thinking about the outcome that you want to achieve, which is I'm about to set this new PR record, right? I'm about to achieve this lift. That's what you're thinking about. It's not to say that proper squat form is not important, because it absolutely is, and it's not to say that proper swing mechanics are not important, because they absolutely are, right? But in that moment, you're probably not thinking about mechanics. You can think about mechanics on an earlier set when you're warming up and all that kind of stuff. They are important, but during the moment, the big event, I doubt that you're thinking about mechanics. Another example, Usain Bolt, when he's getting ready to set a world record or go for a world record, do you really think he's thinking about what his hands are doing and his stride length and all that sort of stuff? Sure, he thinks about that in practice. 100% he thinks about that in practice. But when it comes to the main event, I'm sure he's just thinking about running as fast as he possibly can and beating everybody else and winning that race and setting a world record, right? And so I think the same thing can be applied in hitting. A lot of you are thinking way too much about mechanics in a real game. Look, the reason we work so hard in practice is so that when we step up to the plate in a real game, it really becomes second nature. Our swing becomes second nature. That's the goal of having quality practice, is so that when you get in the batter's box, it becomes second nature. When you step in the box, you should be thinking about, you gotta have a plan, you gotta have an aggressive approach, okay? And you gotta swing at good pitches and hit the ball hard somewhere, okay? That's all you got to do in a real game, right? I think that it's important to make the occasional swing tweak, work on your mechanics in practice, but I think if you're doing it in a real game, then you're doing it the wrong way. I think groove your swing in practice, and I think when you step up to the plate in a real game, you just got to have fun and you got to compete. The second mistake you might be making is lack of consistency with your routines and habits. Here's what you have to understand, okay? In a real game situation, everything is elevated. And the reason why everything is elevated is because there's a real situation on the field. You're facing a real pitcher, right? There's real fans in the stands, and there's a real opponent in the other dugout. So because of that, everything is elevated. That means there's gonna be more pressure in a real game than there is gonna be in practice, right? And under pressure, that creates reflexive behavior, okay? And so what that means is under pressure, we are gonna resort to our habits and our routines. And so if you don't have good habits and good routines that allow you to have success on the field, then you're really gonna struggle with any sort of consistency, and you're always gonna find yourself being a streaky hitter. So dial in those good habits and those good routines, because remember, everything's elevated in a real game. That creates pressure, and the pressure is gonna create that reflexive behavior. Another in-game hitting mistake that a lot of hitters make is not taking enough time in between pitches. So let's say that the pitcher misses with a curveball out of the zone. You're doing yourself a disservice if you just step out of the box really quickly and then step back in. What you need to do is you need to collect some data, and you need to learn from that pitch that just came out of the hand, right? You should see it as an advantage. Every single pitch that's thrown should stack the deck more and more and more in your favor. Every single pitch that goes by should be a bigger advantage for you. But the only way that you do that is if you take your time in between pitches and you actually learn from what just transpired on the field, okay? So I like to encourage players to remember the 2 R's, okay? The first R is replay. So a pitch goes by, when you step out, you see a lot of hitters, readjusting the dirt after every pitch. You're not thinking about where you're going out to eat after the game. You should be thinking about, okay, replay that pitch. What did it look like out of the pitcher's hand? Was it obviously a ball or a strike? What pitch was it? What did it look out of the pitcher's hand? Okay, this first pitch was a curveball and it started low and it finished even lower outside the zone, but if it starts up a little bit higher, that's going to break for a strike, right? Replay what that pitch looked like in your mind, and then obviously, then you got to refocus. Every single time that the count changes, the situation changes. So does your approach change at all with that? What's the pitcher thinking now? What's he probably going to come with next, right? How does your approach change in this particular count, in this particular situation? So replay and then refocus, and then obviously be sure that you're getting your sign and stuff, and then you can step back in. But I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you just rush, you hurry out of the box and hurry back into the box. You got to learn from each pitch that goes by. Mistake number 4 is not making adjustments. If you fail and then you fail to make an adjustment, why would it be reasonable for you to expect yourself to have success in your next at bat or even on the next pitch? It really wouldn't be, right? That's the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over again but expecting a different result. If you fail and you don't make an adjustment, you're just going to continue to fail in the same way over and over and over again. Guys, you gotta adjust your sails. So after a failure, you need to diagnose, okay, what went wrong there? Why did I fail? And then you need to make an adjustment if necessary, and then you can forget about it, okay? Having a short memory as a baseball player is a really good thing, but it can't be in one ear, out the other. When you fail, you gotta first learn from that failure. This is the key. You gotta learn from that failure first before you forget about it. A 5th big mistake, this one's huge, bringing bad at-bats out into the field with you, okay? Now, obviously, bad at-bats are not fun, but the reality is they're part of the game of baseball, and the real reality is they're gonna happen more often than you wish they would, okay? Bad at-bats and failure is part of the game of baseball, okay? But what you have to do is you gotta make an adjustment like we just talked about, and then you gotta forget about it, and you gotta flush it, and you gotta move forward, okay? But when you go out on defense, you are doing yourself a disservice and you're doing your team a disservice if you are out on defense, but your mind is somewhere else. Okay? Because what's going to happen if you're out on defense and you're thinking about a failure at the plate, you're bringing your bad at bat out onto the field, you're going to have a compounding effect when it comes to failure. You're going to fail at the plate, and then all of a sudden you're going to fail on the field, and all of a sudden you got a strikeout and you got an error, and it's just going to spiral downhill, okay? And so you need to think about it this way: be where your feet are and be a team player. A team player is not out there physically, but mentally somewhere else, okay? So be where your feet are. I think that'll really help you out. The 6th mistake is something I'm sure you can really relate to: extrapolating at bats, okay? So let's say that you start off the game and you start out 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. You might have the mentality of, oh man, I'm 0 for 2, I might go 0 for today, I can't wait for tomorrow to just have a clean slate. And what you do in that moment is you're extrapolating this at bat and you're extending the current trend. You're thinking that the current trend is gonna continue. So you can do that when you're failing. On the flip side, you can also do that when you're succeeding as well. If you start off the game 2 for 2, you might get a little lax, right? A little casual before your third at bat, and you might stop doing the things that allowed you to have success in the first place. You might stop studying the pitcher. You might stop doing your routine in the on-deck circle. You might mentally have checked out because you're thinking, well, hey, you know, even if I go 2 for 4, I'm still hitting 500 on the day. That's still a great day. And you stop doing the things that got you there in the first place. So this extrapolation can happen on the negative side and on the positive side. You just got to treat every single at bat as its own entity, right? If you start off the game 1 for 1 or 0 for 1, a great at bat or a terrible at bat, the next at bat is a new at bat. You got to treat that as its own thing and try your best to do that every single time. Play one pitch, one at bat at a time, and that's what ultimately will lead you to success in the long run. And last but certainly not least, mistake number 7 is not scouting the pitcher enough. Okay, here's something you have to remember. Spectating is for the fans. Studying is for the players. So when you're in a real game, when you're in the dugout, when it's not your turn to hit, you're in the dugout, okay? It's important to cheer on your teammates, root for them, be a good teammate, all that good stuff. But what's even more important than that is not wasting any time in the dugout, not screwing around. You need to be watching the game and studying the game and, you know, watching it in hopes to learn something and to pick up information that's going to give you an advantage when it's your turn to hit. So you should be watching the pitcher. You know, what are his tendencies? What's his out pitch? What pitches does he even throw? What's he struggling with? and what's he on with today. Pay attention to the situations and the counts. Ask your teammates who have faced this pitcher, okay, hey, what's he got? What's his strengths? What's his weaknesses? What did he throw you with 2 strikes? What did he throw you when he was ahead in the count, behind in the count? This is all information that you can learn, but you're never going to learn it if you're just screwing around in the dugout. So don't be spectating, leave that for the fans, because the reality is, who's going to have a bigger advantage? You, if you walk up to the plate clueless and you have 2 at-bats on the day, you've seen this pitcher twice, and you're going up for your 3rd at-bat, or one of your teammates who's paying attention in the game and they've basically got 20 at-bats because they're watching the game and they're getting as many mental at-bats, mental reps as possible, right? Obviously, that player is going to have a huge advantage. So don't just be spectating, don't just be watching the game passively. It takes being active, it takes studying the game and learning something. So that's it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave it a like and be sure you're subscribed to the channel. That way you never miss any of our upcoming baseball videos. And we got a lot of other great videos on the channel waiting for you to watch right now. So be sure to go and watch some of those older videos. And last thing, hitters, I put together an awesome free gift for you. It's called the Contact Point Checklist, and you can download it 100% free by just clicking on the link down below in the pinned comment, okay? Click on that link, and this free contact point checklist is going to make sure your swing looks picture perfect at the point of contact so that you can really improve your consistency at the plate and hit the ball harder and further and have more confidence and have more fun on the field, which is what it's all about. So 100% free. Go download that right now. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.